Welcome back. Today I want to talk about an album which I really enjoyed listening to when it came out, and I still enjoy listening to it from time to time again today. But why have I chosen it specifically for this great recording series? Well, as you'll see in this video, I think it had a very big impact on the music industry and many musicians, and in itself was very revolutionary. I'm talking, of course, of David Gray's White Ladder. But before we get on to the music, and there will be chapters and you'll be able to go into the chapters and just pick out individual tracks if you want to know what I think about those tracks, you can do so. But I'm going to just talk a little bit of context, just a little bit about David Gray, because there's not much known about him as far as I can see. I've done a little bit of research and found very little. So this won't take very long. And then after I've talked just a little bit about him, we will go straight into the tracks, as I say, and I'll read some of the lyrics just to bring some of the attention to really what I think is quite a remarkable LP. So anyway, we're talking about David Peter Gray, born on the 13th of June in 1968. He's born in Sale near Manchester, and he was brought up in that region until the age of 9. And this is important because at the age of 9, his family moved to a place called Solva, which is on the Pembrokeshire coast in Wales. Now, it's beautiful. It's down in the southwest, shall we say, and it's absolutely lovely place. I've done some walking along the coastline there, and yeah, it's very inspiring. Now, this move is important because David Gray did mention it himself, that later on when he was thinking about becoming a musician, he remembered his parents making this move and basically reinventing their lives, because I don't know what they were doing before, but when they arrived in Solva, they took over a gift shop and they went into the clothing business. And so he realized that this complete change was possible for them, then maybe being a musician could be possible for him. And he started off as a folk musician, but let's get to that in a second, because when he finished school, he went to Carmarthen College of Art and then on to Liverpool Art School. And when he finished there, then he really got into the folk scene, and he actually built up quite a following of people in Ireland. And okay, that's not so far. It's just a hop across from where he was living. And yes, he was sort of building his career, getting his experience. Now, in order to research this album a little bit, I listened closely to his first 3 LPs. And I think it's interesting because when I listened to the LPs, it wasn't an easy listen. But I could sort of begin to see where maybe this album comes from. But the strange thing is that this album is so different from the first 3 and so revolutionary for him, really, that it's hard to compare. But the first 3, he had an album, his first album, if I'm right, I'm not an expert on these things, is A Century Ends, which came out in 1993. And that's quite aggressive. Well, not aggressive, it's very assertive. He sounds like an angry young man, or a man with a purpose, and he's banging these songs out. And there's a lot of influences from singer-songwriters. Of course, anyone with principally a guitar and a voice, you know, everyone thinks of Bob Dylan and Donovan and all the people before. But there's definitely an element of that. But I found it quite uncomfortable to listen to in many ways, maybe because it was reminding me a bit of my my past, my early days of singer-songwriting. Anyway, so he then brings out another album just a year later called Flesh, which I still think is in a similar vein to the A Century Ends. And then Sell, Sell, Sell in 96. I've written here anguished, intense, determined, multiple influences, quite hard to work out where it fits. And I can imagine he sold quite a few albums whilst doing his folk club tours and stuff. And to earn a living as a singer-songwriter would not have been easy, and I think he would have worked that out for himself. But the magic happens in 1998. In November 1998, he releases this album, White Ladder, on his own record label, IHT. It spent 6 weeks at #1 in Ireland, and it sold 100,000 copies in that time, which was a hell of a lot. So he must have thought, oh, great. And by September 2001, the album had been certified 20 times platinum in the Irish music industry, and that meant that in total they'd sold about 300,000 units, which I believe is still a record for Ireland. But that's Ireland. In the rest of the world, nothing really happened until Dave Matthews of the Dave Matthews Band, some of you may know who he is, he released this LP, White Ladder, on his own record label, ATO. And it basically got to #1 in August of 2021. So a year and 3 months later after the release date. So he releases it in April 2000, and in August 2021 it climbs up to #1, and that's an incredible long time. But it stayed in the UK chart for 3 years, or over 3 years in fact. So it was very, very successful, and it did pretty well in America too. So what were the elements here? Why do I think it's such an important LP? Well, when you listen to it, and I'm going to play some excerpts, you will notice, or if you look back on it, you can think, okay, and I've made a little chart here. It's pretty basic, forgive me, but if you look at it from one hand, from this album, you've got the folk pop acoustic, which is this kind of got that going, and also proved that a sort of folk singer or a singer-songwriter could earn a good living in the industry. And from there, you could see people like Damien Rice, even Norah Jones to a certain extent, Travis, Coldplay, Keane, and this sort of introspective sound and vocals and lyrics, as you'll see in a minute. And it kind of brought about a singer-songwriter revival. And even Ed Sheeran, I think we can make direct links from David Gray to Ed Sheeran. I think that's not being too far-fetched. David Gray on this album is creating some sort of loops, and he's using loops. And this acoustic emotion, as I've called it there, I think there's a direct link. But in the middle, this album is so unusual because it's got an electronic aspect to it, and there's acoustic. So there are certain times when you're thinking, is this an acoustic album? Is this an electronic album? It's right in the middle. And we must remember in this talk, or I must remember, that the emphasis needs to be in 1998 it was released. So in 97, he's working on recording this album in his home studio, and he does the whole album at home. And this in itself is liberating, because it means that with the new digital technology, people can make albums at home and not necessarily in a studio. Now, I'm told, and I don't know if it's strictly true, I'm guessing it probably is, that because the first 3 albums were not a commercial success, there were no record labels really wanting to support him. So he thought, right, I'll just do it myself at home. And that set off a new trend. So on the electronic chill out, we've got like 07 and Frau Frau and the Postal Service. But then you go into what they call the coffee house pop era with John Mayer and Jack Johnson and Jason Mraz. And I think John Mayer is a really good one, because the Continuum album from John Mayer, okay, it comes a bit later, but I feel there's a connection between these two. And it's not surprising that in my CD collection, these two were sitting next to each other. But I think the big link here is on the DIY side, indie, self-made. You don't need the big record label, you can do it yourself. And there's a whole list of people there. And bedroom pop ethos is what we've called it here, with Billie Eilish, Phineas, recording everything at home, the quiet electronics and intimacy of these things. All this happened, I think, first of all, with this album. Forgive me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, and I'm really look forward to reading the comments on this, because I see this as a dialogue. I don't pretend to be an expert on this. I'm sharing my personal interpretation, my personal feelings towards this and what I've discovered. So obviously the recording was self-financed in his London flat. He's married at the time, and apparently he said that his wife was very financially supportive and very emotionally supportive of the whole project. Without that steady income, goodness knows, because let's be fair, when it's released, he's 30 years old. So he's not a kid anymore, and there's bills to pay and all those things. So I can imagine there was quite a pressure on him too. So on the album, David is playing vocals, guitar, piano and keyboards, but he's also supported by Craig McClune, who he worked with before, and he's sort of producing it as well, if I understand correctly. And he's playing drums, vocals, keyboards and bass, not on every track, but on some of the tracks. But he also worked with on the album Flesh and Cell 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 too. So those two obviously knew each other, got on well together, or worked well together, and David's chosen to bring him back for this project. And then there's a guy called Tim Bradshaw. I don't know anything about him, I'm sorry, playing keyboards on a number of tracks, and Simon Edwards is playing bass on 3 of the tracks as well, but I'll come back to that later on. It's produced by somebody called Leston Paulson. Don't know anything about them. He's the producer, engineer and programmer, and Dave Turner did all the mastering. Now, one of the things I think is important, it's 1998, released in the big world, shall we say, in 2000, it's a great sounding CD. And for those some of those early CDs, which were remasters of the vinyl, we all know didn't sound great. This one did, and I think that really helps it on its way. Well, I think that's all I want to say about this, about David Gray and the recording itself. I have no idea about what kind of equipment he was using or anything like that. If you know, please share it with me. Now, one of the things that I feel about this LP is his lyrics, and he's obviously very influenced by a number of poets, and you can feel these styles coming in the lyrics. And forgive me, I've just got some sheets here which I've prepared, because I want to share some of the lyrics with you, because I think they're very, very interesting. And I've brought in with me a painting by Edward Hopper. Everybody knows this painting. It's a very, very famous painting. Nighthawks. I saw it recently when I visited Chicago, and I'm going to come back to this painting again and again in the talk, because Edward Hopper, when you see him, there's always a subject which is in the light, but there's always a darkness and a shadow. And I think I mentioned it before in one of my talks, that Philip Larkin wrote a poem, and he said something along the lines, it's called Wits and Weddings, sunlight detracts from what's happening in the shadows. And all the way through this album, you will see what I call a musical version of Hopper. Here's a very famous Hopper painting, Cape Cod. And you see that the couple and the house in bright sunlight with the dog, but look at the background, completely in darkness. And it gives this sort of duality, this impending doom almost. And I find that these themes come back. Again, here's another Edward Hopper, all the way through David Gray's songs. Now, I am not saying that David Gray was a great fan of Hopper. Maybe he even disliked him, or he even thought about it. This is the connection that I've made, my interpretation. So let's start with the first track. I'm just going to read the lyrics for you here. I'll do my best. Please forgive me if I act a little strange, for I know not what I do. Feels like lightning running through my veins every time I look at you. Help me out here, all my words are falling short, and there's so much I want to say. Want to tell you just how good it feels when you look at me that way. Throw a stone and watch the ripples flow, moving out across the bay. Like a stone I fall into your eyes, deep into that mystery. I've got half a mind to scream out loud. I've got half a mind to die. So I won't ever have to lose you, girl. Won't ever have to say goodbye. I won't ever have to lie. Please forgive me if I act a little strange, for I know not what I do. Feels like lightning running through my veins every time I look at you. Now, I hope you can see what I mean by these contrasts there, the excitement of the relationship and everything. You will also know, if you've watched other recordings, great recording series, I'm very, very into how an album opens. And this album opens, imagine that you're hearing it for the very first time with a drumming opening to set the scene. And I've got no idea what to expect. Is this going to be a rock album? Is it going to be a West Coast album? I don't think it could be a folk album by what I hear. And you'll hear this tape loop and piano chords, and it adds all this ambiguity, and it makes me think of the early work of William Orbit, which was happening around that time. He was beginning to work with Madonna. And this biblical line, for I know not what I do. It's so much going on in this. Let's actually see how it goes. It builds very slowly. What he does here, and he does this in a number of songs, he builds his songs slowly. Now, it's a common trick, it's a technique, I should say, that a lot of pop songs and songs do, where it builds and adding little pieces. Let's just move forward a little bit and see how the guitar entry comes in. Deep into some mystery. Out loud. I got half a mind to die. Yeah, you see, it's just a very, very simple sound. And even that guitar sound could be a loop even, or he's playing it, but it just keeps coming back. And you heard that electronics in the background. Now I'm just going to move on to the rest of the track, just go towards to the end of it, and think about this light and darkness that I was talking about with Edward Hopper. See if it makes any sense to you. Help me out here, all my words are falling short, and there's so much I want to say. Tell you just how good it feels when you look at me that way. You see, the melody, the backing and everything is melancholic. He's singing in euphoric terms, but there's that shadow behind. And I find it a marvellous combination. Now, you have to imagine him recording this in his home studio. You know, I imagine his wife's gone out to work and then he's just sort of creating all these wonderful things surrounded by just those few musicians we mentioned earlier. Marvellous. Now, the next track is Babylon. This is the one that everybody probably knows. It's very, very famous. It's got a lovely, gentle opening. And again, you've got no idea where it's going to. It's very minimalist, simple echo loops, and very, very clean. Let's have a listen to the opening.
Friday night, I'm going nowhere. All the lights are changing, green to red. Turning over TV stations, situations running through my head. Looking back through time, you know it's clear that I've been blind, I've been a fool. To open up my heart to all that jealousy, that bitterness, that ridicule. Saturday, I'm running wild and all the lights are changing red to green. Moving through the crowds, I'm pushing, chemicals are rushing in my bloodstream. Only wish that you were here, you know I'm seeing it so clear. I've been afraid to show you how I really feel, admit to some of those bad mistakes I've made.
If you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. That great chorus that you have. And if you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. The love I was giving you was never in doubt. Let go your heart, let go your head, and feel it now. Babylon. And you think, well, why is he choosing the word Babylon? Is it just to represent chaos? Is it to represent some deeper thing, a lack of communication between the two individuals? I think that could be a very good reasoning with the Tower of Babel story in the background. And it's interesting because, you know, he's on his own, because it's situations running through my head, looking back through time. You know, it's clear that I've been blind. I've been a fool to open up my heart to all that jealousy, that bitterness, that ridicule. And so it's an interesting thing, because he ends, the next verse is, Sunday, all the lights of London shining, sky is fading red to blue, kicking through the autumn leaves and wondering where it is you might be going to. Turning back for home, you know I'm feeling so alone, I can't believe. Climbing on the stair, I turn round to see you smiling there in front of me. And if you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. The love I was giving you was never in doubt. Now, is she there or he there? Is his partner there? Or is it just a vision? Is he just dreaming it? All this ambiguity he leaves in this song for us, the people who are enjoying and appreciating his brilliant work, can fill in the dots ourselves and make the painting complete. Now, what's next? Well, next we have a track called My Oh My. Oh no, hang on a minute. I'm going to take Babylon to the end. Of course I should. Silly me. Let's just hear how he takes it, and I'll play you a bit of the chorus. Isn't it nice how it just breaks it all back down, simplifies it all, removes all those elements away? And now we'll go on to My Oh My. I do apologise. Right, this is the third track on the album. What on earth is going on in my heart? Has it turned as cold as stone? Seems these days I don't feel anything lest it cuts me right down to the bone. What's going on in my heart? 'Cause my oh my, you know, it just don't stop. It's in my mind, I want to tear it up. I'm trying to fight it, trying to turn it off, but it's not enough. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of love, my friend, to keep your heart from freezing, to push on till the end. What's going on in my head? You know, I used to be so sure. You know, I used to be so definite. I thought I knew what love was for. I look around these days, I'm not so sure. Oh my, you know, I just can't win. I burn it down, it comes right back again. What kind of world is this we're living in? Where you never win. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of love these days to keep your heart from freezing, to keep your spirit free. Where you never win. It's hard to imagine all of these elements coming in, these different moods coming in. He's painting pictures. I think some of it is obviously happening to other people. I don't think it's all autobiographical. But this where you never win, maybe this is also a feeling he's thinking he's putting all this energy and passion in. And where's it going to go to? Where indeed is it going to go to? Let's indeed play a little bit, just a little bit of My Oh My. You'll notice that it opens with a very dark, eerie sound. Now, I don't want to go too much into the technical things, but it's basically playing E minor and then this D sus chord with an open E, and it just moves into the major for the chorus, and it's giving you a bit of hope, but only in the chord structure. And it's really strange how we can play major chords and still make them sound like minor chords. I'm sorry if I'm going into too many jargon things here, but I hope you enjoy this.
What on earth is going on in my heart? Has it turned as cold as stone? It seems these days I don't feel anything unless it cuts me right down to the bone. What on earth is going on in my heart? It's my oh my, you know, just don't stop. It's in my mind, I wanna tear it up. I'm trying to fight it, trying to turn it off, but it's not enough. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of love, my friend, to keep your heart from freezing, to push on to the end. My oh my. What on earth is going on in my head? You know I used to be so sharp. You know I used to be so definite. Thought I knew what love was for.
You see this darkness and then this light and there's elements there. I think it's great stuff. Now the next track 4, We're Not Right, he mentions Betty Ford in here, and for those younger people who might not know, Betty Ford was the wife of Gerald Ford, the American president, who ran a clinic or founded a clinic of some kind for people with alcoholism. I couldn't find any evidence of David Gray talking about being an alcoholic or whatever, but maybe he knew alcoholics, maybe he spent a lot of time with them. Goodness knows where the inspiration for the track comes from. We're Not Right, it's called. Feel the weight of this passing time, all those crazy faces running through my mind, and that song has brought a teardrop to my eye. We can't tell the bottle from the mountain top. No, we're not right. I see this world, but I can't relate, and everything must accelerate. Betty Ford, oh, won't you be my Valentine? We can't tell the bottle from the mountain top. No, we're not right. Can't tell the bottle from the mountain top. And now my hands are shaking and I just can't stop. Can't tell the bottle from the mountain top. We're not right. Now I'm weak and my head is sore and I feel I can't go on no more. Come in here where normal rules do not apply. We can't tell the bottle from the mountain top. No, we're not right. It's a nice song and it fits very nicely after the last track. And I can think it's a great album in the way that all the tracks blend and move and the mood shifts as it moves along.
Crazy faces run through my mind, and this song has brought a tear to my eye. You can't tell the bottle from your mountain top. No, we're not right. I see this world, but
So you see, a completely different style from the last track. And I like that because he's taking us on a journey with this album. Now we're going to move on to track 5, and it's called Nightblindness. And you'll see here when he opens this, it has a completely different feel to it.
A million to one outsiders, night blindness, can't see. Your bright eyes are what the time is, 25 past eternity. Here listening to the sirens coming closer, now further away. What we gonna do when the money runs out? I wish that there was something left to say. Where we gonna find the eyes to see a brighter day?
Now he's put more space on the vocal here. It's more forward and it's there. And it's you get this feeling of obviously this kind of folk ballad, but you can see that the backing is completely different. Again, it's this duality I really like. Now, I want to show you another painting of Edward Hopper, a married couple, and it's called Room in New York. We'll pop it up on the screen for you. I really do get this feeling when I look at that painting and I listen to this track. I can imagine the woman in the figure in there by the piano, bored out of her mind, like it looks to me, and it looks like they're a young couple, not an elderly couple. And I imagine them just thinking, what we're going to do when the money runs out. Let's just listen to these lyrics again. Nightblindness, it's called. 1,000,000 to 1 outsiders, night blindness, can't see your bright eyes or what the time is, 25 past eternity. here listening to the sirens coming closer, now further away. I'm sick of all the same old answers, last chances, cold stones, propping mountains up on matchsticks, dragging baskets full of bones. And honey, please don't stop your talking, 'cause there's a feeling that won't leave me alone. What are we going to do when the money runs out? I wish there was something I could say. How are we going to find the eyes to see a brighter day? It's quite heavy stuff, isn't it? But on the other hand, when you're driving along and you're listening to this album, it's actually nice. It's like that fado feeling or the flamenco. It's beautiful and dark at the same time. And that's what made me think of Edward Hopper, of course. I'm going to try and stop talking about Edward Hopper for a while and focus back on David Gray, but I hope you're enjoying this link that I've made. It's an excuse to see some great paintings, in my opinion. Okay, so the next track is called Silver Lining, and we're back to a kind of lullaby type introduction with a literal light versus darkness theme again, completely. Notice his beautiful phrasing on the first line of the first verse, because he often does this. He actually says your own sweet head, and you'll see this lovely pause to give that weight. And it's those sort of things that great artists do that average artists forget to do or don't realize they should do. And producers sometimes are able to pick that up and say, why don't you just give that a bit of space and drop that in after another 2 beats. Anyway, the delay in the last 2 words is wonderful. The sublime melancholic delicacy is what I've written here. Notice too, if you can now, obviously listening through the speakers in the room with this room microphone, you're not going to get all the detail. It sounds much better here than you're going to hear, but you're welcome to come over and have a listen. Just contact the office. Anyway, there's the faintest of a hi-hat type sound going tick, tick. And when you hear it, you'll notice it's not really on any beat. It's not a clip track, and if it's a clip track, everything's moved completely in a different direction. It comes in about 16 seconds in, you'll hear it. The lyrics are not the cinematic lyrics of Mark Knopfler. Now, you may have seen my video on Dire Straits' first album with these very cinematic lyrics that Mark writes, painting these wonderful pictures, and you can see it all and the details all there. And he even talks about, putting the hand in the pockets and everything. You can just imagine it all. These are not those. David Gray is painting lyrics that create moods, that try and draw out those deepest emotions. And he's using his lyrics to create these tonal palettes of dark imagery. That's how I try and explain it. Sometimes words aren't good enough. But let's listen to Silver Lining.
Take the silver lining, keep it in
Right. Take this silver lining, keep it in your own sweet head, and shine it when the night is burning red. Shine it in the twilight, shine it on the cold, cold ground. Shine it till these walls come tumbling down. We were born with our eyes wide open, so alive, wild hope now. Can you tell me why, time after time, they drag you down, down in the darkness deep? Fools in their madness all around, know that the light don't sleep. Step into the silence, take it in your own two hands, and scatter it like diamonds all across these lands. Blaze it in the morning, wear it like an iron skin. Only things worth living for are innocence and magic. Amen. We were born with our eyes wide open, so alive with wild hope. Can you tell me why, time after time, they drag you down, down in the darkness deep? Fools in their madness all around, know that the light don't sleep. I hope you're enjoying this album. I love it. Now we're on to the title track, White Ladder. It's the 7th track. There's 10 tracks in total. Let's just move ahead. Now, there is something I need to point out. Listen carefully. You probably didn't hear the ticking on that last track. It is very subtle. It's something you need to do at home with your headphones carefully. But on this track, he opens it with the sound of vinyl. But this is 1998. Vinyl is still sort of happening. It's fading out. So he's already creating a nostalgic sound for vinyl. I don't know if anybody else has done that at this point, or whether it was him who started the craze or not. But please let me know in the lyric, in the description, in your comments. Here we go. White Ladder.
There's no remedy to the love, this sweet love.
I love that. The way he builds it. I love the whole sound of it. It's a great song to listen to when you're driving along in the summer or with the windows open. And yet again, the lyrics are telling us white ladder, water and wine. Obviously a religious, influence here. Water and wine, forever crying all the time. I don't want to feel tonight. There's no rhyme or reason to love. This sweet love, white river, thunder and war. How many time? Oh no, I don't want to feel no more. There's no rhyme or reason to love. This sweet, sweet love. To the night another body, to the night another name, to the night another Valentine, burning flame. Tall order, tremble and sigh, forever crying, oh my, yea, 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 I don't want to feel tonight. There's no rhyme or reason to love, this sweet, sweet love. Let's pick it up from the chorus, shall we? And
There's no remedy.
album this is. I hope you're enjoying this. I mean, I love this album, and I think it's a little bit forgotten, and I'd like to bring it back and see how this album fits into what we know today. This acoustic, this electronic, these tape loops, and yeah, I think it's been a very influential album on a lot of people, certainly. So now we're on to track 8, which is called This Year's Love. This year's love had better last. Heaven knows it's high time. I've been waiting on my own too long, and when you hold me like you do, it feels so right. Oh, now I start to forget how my heart gets torn when that hurt gets thrown, feeling like you can't go on. Turning circles and time again, cut like a knife. Oh, now, if you love me, I've got to know for sure, 'cause it takes something more this time than sweet, sweet lies. Oh, now before I open up my arms and fall, losing all control, every dream inside my soul, when you kiss me on that midnight street, sweep me off my feet, singing, ain't this life so sweet? This year's love better last, 'cause who's to worry if our hearts get torn? When that hurt gets thrown, don't you know, this life goes on. It's so fantastic.
This year's love had better last. Heaven knows it's high time. I've been waiting on my own too long. And when you hold me like you do, it feels so right. Oh, now I start to forget how my heart gets torn when that hurt gets thrown, feeling like you can't go on.
Now, I want to take you to the ending of this track, and I would like you to listen to the bass line. It's so simple. There's a small run, do-do-do, and you think, okay. And then there's a suspended note that sounds wrong, but somehow beautifully resolves. And that gives you this tension without even realizing. It reminds me of like Hitchcock films when he would leave a cigarette burning in the sun in an ashtray, looking, and you think any minute it's going to fall out. But that's just on the side of the screen. You don't even notice it unless you really study hard. I just like the sound. It sounds like there's just a couple of people come round to his place and they're sort of jamming it through and working it out. It isn't polished or over sophisticated or difficult in any way, just natural. And I love this. I think it's what makes it special.
This year's love had better last. This year's love had better last. Whoa, yeah. This year's love had better last.
I think that suspension is great. I think it really gives that feeling of will it or won't it? There's a sort of open-endedness to it. It's not just going boom onto the root chord and ending there. Okay, so now we're in another, again, he's going to change gear. We're going to get into a new a vibe, sail away, and it's a very, very nice. It has a very spacious opening, and it reminds me of something, and I can't put my finger on it, so please tell me in the description below, in the comments below, what it is that it reminds me of. It's driving me nuts. It's produced by Marius de Vries, who worked with Bjork and Massive Attack and Bowie and U2 and PJ Harvey, so I'm sure maybe it's one of those it reminds me of. But there's an optimism in the chord structure again, despite the depression in the lyrics. Again, we're back in our situation here of this contrast. Here we go. Love the drum sound. What does that remind you of?
Sail away with me, honey. Put my heart in your hand. Sail away with me, honey. Now. Sail away with me. What will be. I wanna hold you now. Crazy skies are wild above me now. Winter howling at my face, and everything I held so dear disappeared without a trace. Oh, all the times I tasted love, never knew quite what I had.
Again, the theme of love and losing love is coming back all the time. Winter howling at my face, and everything I held so dear disappeared without a trace. Oh, all the times I've tasted love, never knew quite what I had. Little darling, if you hear me now, never needed you so bad. Spinning round inside my head, I've been talking drunken gibberish, falling in and out of bars, trying to get some explanations here for the way some people are. How did it ever come so far? Sail away with me, honey. What will be. Sail away with me. And you can imagine that in a drunken bar, seeing a young woman and saying, come on, let's run away together. Let's find a new life. Completely fantastical. Whatever. We are now in the track that I think, I hope he forgives me if he ever sees this film, is the most brilliant track on the whole album. And it's not written by him. It's written by Mark Armand and David Bell, who sadly passed away this year. It's a song called Say Hello, Wave Goodbye. And I think it's such a brilliant song. I mean, originally with Mark Armand's version, I remember sort of thinking how funny it was, by the vocals and everything. But he's just grabbed this song, grabbed the emotion of it, made it his own, and made it into such a fantastic track. I love the sound of this. Let me just stop talking and just play a little opening of it here.
Standing at the door of the pink flamingo, crying in the rain. It was a kind of so love, and I'm gonna make sure it doesn't happen again. You and I had to be the standing joke of the year. You were a runaround, a lost and found, and that for me half year. Take your hands off me.
what I like is this simplicity. He's broken it all down. You've got a very typical sort of acoustic guitar rhythm track on it. But listen to the bass. I've made a note here. Simon Edwards is playing bass on this, and he's just playing one note per bar. It's so simple. It'd be so easy to do more and fill it out unnecessarily. But this again creates this sense of an unease, which we've seen before in like the Hitchcock movie scenario I was talking about. It comes back in this track in such a big way. Listen to this. He's building it up. Yeah, sorry, I cut that off a bit short, but you get the picture. It's so simple. It's so broken down. The original was as simple as well, but I think he really makes it his own. Now, at the very end of this track, I can listen to that track again and again and again. I can put it on repeat. It just has such a big impact on me. Obviously, just playing excerpts, it doesn't work the same. And especially as it comes at the end of this album. At the very end, David Gray pays homage to one of his sort of, I don't know if you call it heroes or somebody who had influence on him for sure, Van Morrison. And there's the elements of Into the Mystic and Madame George coming in it. Just have a little listen to that. This is the fade out, basically.
We were born for the way. Who we understand? We were born for the way. Say goodbye. Through the rain, hail, sleet, and snow. Say goodbye. Get on the train, say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Again,
Say goodbye.
that bass is just so simple. It's not like Danny Thompson. Danny Thompson was a great bass player, but Simon's just holding it right back to give the full effect of the song. Well, that's the end of the album. That is the end of David Gray's White Ladder. I hope you've enjoyed this little talk. Please put your comments in the comment. Tell us all the things I'm missing, all the details that you might know that I don't, and share them with the community. So if you have been watching, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the music.